Monday. Hope everybody's having a great start to your Monday. It was a crazy weekend in the world of sports, in the world of college football, that's for sure. We're going to talk about it. I actually had a good conversation yesterday about really what's happening in Power 5 college football. So we're going to discuss what all is happening. We've got the hashtag We Want to Play message from Trevor Lawrence. There are two types of lawsuits that college presidents are scared about during this coronavirus fall. So how do those potential lawsuits impact the ability for college football to happen? Will the Big Ten call it quits this week? That's certainly what it felt like over the weekend. So we're going to dive into that. And then Zach on Friday, if you're watching the show live from Cheekwood Golf Club, Zach said his good news would be announced this week. So he is going to reveal that tease that he got us all with on Friday. So Zach, welcome in. Hope you had a good weekend. We're going to have a good show today.
Yeah, I did have a good weekend. I went out on the boat yesterday, enjoyed the weekend, but we've got a lot to talk about this week, starting with, the future of our fall. And I've got a lot of opinions. I got into a Twitter discussion, which I usually don't get into over the weekend, and we can kind of talk through that. Everybody's got their own opinion on this. And I think this is big news. I don't know if it's going to be good news this week, but it's big news. Before we get started, though, please share the show. I just shared the show to my timeline. You need to share the show to your timeline. Bottom right corner of your screen, though, if you're watching on Periscope/Twitter, please retweet the broadcast. You'll see those three little dots. Tap that bad boy and retweet us. We need to pop up in your Twitter followers' timeline. Also on Facebook, what's going on, Facebookers? More people will pile in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. And as you do, you're going to learn a lot about what college football is discussing and what decisions could be made. We need to pop up in your Facebook Friends newsfeed how that works. Bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. A lot of opinions going to be flying in and out on this show. So good Monday. Let's get this party started.
Yeah, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by TennesseeTickets.com. Excuse me, I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports and like our Facebook page at A to Z Sports Nashville. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for our show, for our business, and for you guys. Renters Warehouse, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, 1 15-minute workout equals 5 hours in the weight room. Mandu.com, your first workout's free. The Tucker Agency, Nashville's independent insurance agency, giving you relief by saving you 20% on your personal insurance. TuckerTN.com. Calvin and Subtle for your new hardwood floors and finishings. CalvinandSuttle.com, and the Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. boneandjointtn.org. So, Zach, you mentioned you got into a Twitter spat over the weekend, which typically does not happen. Also, something that typically does not happen is me taking a day off of Twitter, which I did on Saturday. No Twitter for me on Saturday, which means Sunday morning I checked Twitter and I'm like, what the hell happened with college football? So, Zach, what was your social media like over the weekend with seeing what happened with the MAC on Saturday and then all the conversation with national media, Big Ten presidents meeting on consecutive days, and then the Twitter spat that you got into?
So, and this is my stance. You may disagree with it. I don't give a rip. I would like to hear all the other people that think otherwise, but I tweeted out as once Pete Thamel kind of stirred this up with his sourced report saying that Big Ten presidents are meeting, all options are on the table, and there's some presidential monumental or momentum, for canceling the fall football season. It's unknown whether there's enough support to make that happen. So I responded to that. I said, this would be astronomically stupid. Football needs to be played to get America back in the right mindset. Running away is not the solution. Take the safety precautions necessary to make 2020, make sure it doesn't fully suck. That was kind of that last sentence it's kind of a jab to the coronavirus, saying that our world has sucked since Kobe left it. But in all reality, my stance on this is that college football needs to be played. And you're going to bring some points, and I don't know what they are. These two lawsuits that you're going to mention. I'm curious and I'm open to hear. But Teresa Walker of the AP, who has covered the Titans, the Grizzlies, she does a fantastic job. She thought otherwise. And again, I don't usually have Twitter conversations because I like to talk to people face to face. I don't like texting.
So you're calling this a conversation and was not a spat?
No, it definitely was not a spat. It was two people disagreeing on things, but she didn't take any jabs at me. I didn't take any jabs at her. That's when spats come in, right?
Right. Yes.
And like some guys like, oh, he called me out for saying, oh, this guy loves Fox News. The guy doesn't know me. I don't watch Fox News.
I know for a fact you don't watch Fox News.
Right? So, but I believe college football should be played, and my initial stance, and I want you to tell the fine folks that are viewing now about the lawsuits, but my stance is that college football needs to be played. The Big Ten, the Pac-12, the SEC, everything. All of the Big Five power conference schools need to find a way to figure out how to manage this virus and play football. The virus is not going anywhere. And just because a vaccine happens doesn't mean that people will be open to say, shoot me in the arm, stick me. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody has the right for that. So I believe that the presidents now, and I'm not sitting here just throwing safety out the window. I do think that they need to make sure the safety precautions are at least of some standard, set a standard, and go forth. Now, Teresa Walker was fighting that the college football players, their lack of rights, right? It's the president's job to take care of these students. They're not putting them in a safe situation. We're going to hear Trevor Lawrence and read his comments here a little bit later. But my stance is that college football needs to be played at least to start. If there's massive outbreaks and you cannot do it, then that's what it is. But I am all about trying and putting in full effort instead of quitting before you step to the plate.
All right. So, look, I had a conversation on Sunday because I took Saturday off of Twitter and I was like trying to catch up, like what the hell happened. So I had a conversation with somebody who works in Power 5 college football. And it was about, what are you hearing? What's actually happening? Why are we getting to this point? Because remember last week, the Big Ten announced their schedule, like the full out schedule. The SEC on Friday news dumped their awful bonus opponents where they greatly helped the SEC West and Georgia with weaker schedules than the others. And we'll get into that maybe later on, but it might not happen because of what the Big Ten is talking about right now. So the MAC on Saturday announced that they will not play football in the fall. That's the Mid-American Conference, right? They kind of share the same geographic region as the Big Ten. And so the MAC states that they can't do it. It's the right financial situation and it's the right medical situation for them to do and to try to play football in the spring. And what the MAC cited as one of their main reasons for not playing football this fall is the lack of, and this goes into one of the two lawsuits, because I'm going to dive into this, and there's a lot bigger conversation after this about what these two lawsuits are. And there's different. There's one long-term and there's one short-term that we'll get to. The long-term, the lack of understanding the long-term effects of what this virus does to your heart, to your lungs, your entire respiratory system. The MAC cited that in a statement. And so what that did is that made Big Ten presidents immediately have a red flag go up because presidents are worried about liability. And Zach, we've talked about with college football the entire time, the number one word in the college football handling of the coronavirus is liability. It's not really player safety. It's about liability, and it's the odds. The odds are nothing bad is going to happen. No deaths will probably occur with college athletes. That's the odds, right? But all it takes is one. All it takes is one really bad situation for a player to have something serious happen, and then lawsuits happen across the country with universities. And so the lack of understanding what the long-term effects of this virus are made Big Ten presidents and presidents across the Power 5 really nervous about being sued several years down the road.
Why didn't they think about this a month ago when the Big Ten released that they were only playing conference games there? That makes zero sense to me.
Time out. don't take this like this is a brand new thing. This is just the MAC is made it actually public and said that is a key factor.
This is a brand new thing, Austin. That's incorrect. The brand new thing is that a week ago, presidents were not mulling over canceling their season. They were getting prepared to play all conference games. And today, they're mulling over canceling the season. So that is vastly incorrect, Austin.
But all of the, and dude, again, once again, this is what the conversation I had. This is not Austin Stanley's opinion. So
no, you just said that this didn't just happen. It did just happen.
Right, but they've talked about the long-term things, but the MAC is what has pushed us forward. There's always a domino in whatever situation. The Ivy League was the first domino to cancel their college basketball tournament back in early March. That was the first thing to go. And the Ivy League moved college football back to the spring. So there's already a domino there. But the MAC was a key part of the MAC deciding that the lack of understanding of what the long-term effects, that's the first lawsuit that presidents are scared about.
And I get that. I understand it. There's liability with anything that you do. I think Trevor Lawrence brings up a lot of valid points to say to support the fact that players want to play, and it is liability, right? But you have liability. How many waivers have you signed in your life, Austin?
Oh, hundreds. Probably not even knowing.
If not thousands. Not even reading them. That's just what it is. And for this, I think that it is an easy way. I think it goes back to the political realm, but altogether, I think it's an easy way to justify not doing something because of the unknown of the long-term effects. Hell, a meteor could hit the United States of America and we not know about it. Like, there are so many long-term things that we do not know. I am and this is my personal opinion, and we already had, and I was waiting on it, we already had somebody call me an idiot, which is great because I want them to play football. Travis Dyson. Idiots like you are the reason we're still in the situation. And then he goes with Jesus in all caps. I bet you he liked that. But for me, I think that they should try to play. And what they're going to do, or at least try to do, I think that they're going to find these excuses, whether they're justified by many or few. They're going to find these excuses because of a political view between Travis and myself. I don't agree. I can already tell you. I don't know Travis, but I don't agree with one inkling of what he thinks about the virus, and he doesn't think anything the same way that I do. And that ultimately is going to create a clash. And unfortunately, the solution, it sounds like, for these college football teams and these presidents, the easy way out is to quit.
All right, well, real quick, just to be clear, Travis was not talking to you, and that's unfortunate because our Facebook comments, we cannot see when people are responding to other. Travis saying idiots like you are the reason why we're still in this situation. He was responding to Terry, who said if college football is canceled, people are going to look deeper into this COVID BS and realize that it's a giant hoax. So Travis Dyson was not not directly talking to you, Zach. So I do think we got to learn that. That's a me and you thing. We have to figure out how and double check to make sure people aren't calling us out, because people do respond to others in the Facebook comment section. So got to say that out front. So you want to apologize to Travis?
Yeah, Travis. I saw the comment on our back end.
Yes.
And he was not talking to me.
Yes.
Well, so Travis, we may be aligned. I'm sure that there are millions of people that aren't aligned with what I have to say and how I view the virus. I think that, Austin, this is the one thing I want to know from you today. I want to know what you think, not what all the lawsuits or what. I'm not saying you have to give it to me now. I'm saying for this show, when I leave this show, because you know how I feel. I want college football. I think these presidents need to step up and figure out a way to find the safety precautions, not run away and quit, not bend the knee to all of the people viewing and that are fearful and all of this. I want to find out by the end, before Zach's good news, if you'll give me your opinion on what you think should happen?
I will give you my opinion on what I think should happen, and I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think will happen. So, because those are two different things.
I want should. I could give a rip.
I'm going to give you both because that's what I have.
I don't care about
both.
Honestly,
well, then you should care because you should care about more information and more opinion because that's what we do for a living is discuss things. So,
but I want yours.
Now I'm going to give it to you. Come on, man. Like you're attacking Travis and you're attacking me for no reason.
I'm not attacking anybody. I'm asking for your opinion.
I told you I was going to give it to you, and you keep like tripling down on pointing the finger through your camera phone. So here's what we're going to do. I've already told you the first lawsuit that presidents are scared about. I'm going to tell you the second one here in a second. But first, Zach, tell the people about the Tucker Agency.
Yeah, Tucker Agency can save you a ton of money on your insurance. You may not even realize that. TuckerTN.com, Nashville's independent insurance agency. Will Tucker and his team can help you and reorganize all of your policies, whether they're home insurance, life insurance. They have you covered. They can put it in a bundle, and the average person that emails Will can save you 20%. 20% can be a couple $100 extra if you don't know how much you're actually paying right now. Email him today. Tell him A to Z Sports sent you. You want to know how to save money on your insurance. Will at TuckerTN.com.
All right, A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. I've gone through the first overall lawsuit concern that school presidents have about college football happening this season, and that is the law. Hold on, let me talk.
Well, no, I want to ask you a question.
Don't cut me off mid-sentence, Zach. Come on. You're already calling off a guy.
I want to ask you a question about the first one instead of moving on.
Let me finish the first one, and then you can ask. I'm resetting. That's what happens. I'm resetting, Zach. So the first lawsuit is that presidents are concerned about long-term effects. That's one of the factors that the MAC talked about in the release about moving the college football season to the spring, is that they don't want players to come back and sue the universities 20 years down the road for however much money because they have respiratory issues or heart issues. That's the first concern from lawsuits from school presidents.
Austin, what if it's next year and somebody gets COVID, and the next year somebody gets COVID, and then the next year somebody gets COVID, and then 20 years from now they have some respiratory problem? Like, COVID-19 is not going away.
I agree.
It didn't stop in 2019. It hadn't stopped in 2020. So what about when I say that to you?
Look, I agree. Like, I don't know why you're asking me that question. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert when it comes to coronavirus, and I'm not an expert when it comes to how university presidents are going to deal with things down the road. I think college football should play this season, but it's a lot more complicated than that. And there are bigger things than the coronavirus that it's happening to college football at the highest level that we'll talk about later in the show.
So is it a justified argument if the virus is not going away to say, let's quit football because of the long-term effects and we don't know?
So it's an excuse that will work for the short term. If that's what you're at, and that's not my opinion, that's just what I'm thinking. That's what I'm gathering.
Not your opinion?
It's what it's what I'm thinking the presidents are going to use for a reason / excuse to be able to better prepare themselves for the long term is lack of long-term effects. That's my point. It's not necessarily my opinion. It's what I think.
Is it a justified excuse or not, in your opinion?
I think no, not really. But I get why they're doing that.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to know. I'm trying to figure out how you feel about it. And that's why I'm asking these questions to you to figure out your opinion, because I don't know it.
That's fine. That's fine. So the second lawsuit that presidents are concerned about is an more immediate lawsuit, and I think is what's more problematic because I think it can spread very quickly. So what happens when a player gets, or with anybody gets COVID-19? And I talked to Buck a lot last week, who is in week 2 of his COVID-19 diagnosis. And he said several times last week, going up his stairs, he would get out of breath. He tried to go for a walk, but he was out of breath and constantly not able to move, just pure exhaustion and body aches. So and that's minor symptoms.
Sick.
Sure, he's very sick, right? And
I don't know if he was very sick. I think he was sick.
Okay, he was sick, but he was sick and it had a impact on his physical abilities. So here's the situation that I also learned yesterday. dude, quit.
I'm laughing at comments. Don't
Okay.
you can assume all you want, pal, but I'm laughing that you just described somebody that, and Titan Stopper says you just described symptoms of like the flu.
Okay,
It's
but this is but guess
sick.
what, Zach? This is not the flu, and the flu has not caused this country during this 2020 year to react the way it has. So this is all like
No, it was 1918.
Okay. So the situation is there are hundreds, thousands of college football players who think they're going to get to the NFL. And this is what I was told yesterday that presidents are concerned about. Okay. So they're concerned that the really good college football player who might be a senior that really doesn't have NFL like realistic like opportunity, like he might be a practice squad guy for a few years and then bounce out, but he's a really solid college football player who has a name in their local market. There's hundreds of those guys, right? That if that guy gets COVID-19 during his senior season, and let's say it happens in October, he's out for 3 weeks. And during that 3 weeks, he's not able to work out. He's not able to stay in condition. He's not able to eat or sleep the way that he normally would if he was dealing with an injury or a regular flu. And then he comes back and his performance dips tremendously. That player will be preyed on by lawyers across the country and law firms who are out there trying to get money from universities, because that lawyer can say, hey, you lost out. You did not get drafted because your performance dipped so bad after your COVID-19 diagnosis that you went undrafted and you lost your opportunity in the NFL to make millions. I can get you $100,000 from your university. And every player who goes through that situation is going to say, yeah, I'd take $100,000. And that is a situation that presidents are worried about. And I think it's unfortunate because I believe lawyers would do that, because there are a lot of dirty like people who like the tornado. There are businesses that prey on disaster-stricken areas to be able to cash in on that, right? And so I think that is the most prevalent and problematic lawsuit that college presidents are fearful of, because in the Big Ten, the reason why the Big Ten's talking so loud about this is because they have two institutions who cannot get their coronavirus tests under control: Rutgers and Northwestern. Those two schools are not handling this very well whatsoever. And so if you get one guy who goes out there and tries to sue university, his teammate or another player in the same conference is going to see them win a lawsuit and say, I had the same situation, I want it too. And that is what I think, where the player will say, if we didn't play in the season, I would have been able to have a better shot at the NFL because I wouldn't have gotten sick and my play wouldn't have dropped off.
That's an assumption, right? And everybody's entitled to that.
But those are the conversations that are happening in these Power 5 institutions. That's my point.
I would kind of agree with Kelkins. I'm not sure if they would actually win that lawsuit. I don't know, but and I don't disagree with what you said of what would happen. I do believe that lawyers would pray. I mean, hell, it's Shark Week. It's the same way. It's blood in the water because they see dollar signs. My thing, and a lot of people have mentioned this in the comment section, is what about having them sign a waiver? We're going to talk a lot about Trevor Lawrence saying, we want to play. If you want to play, you don't have to, right? Nobody's forcing a gun to your head. You can always come back, keep your scholarship, and you can deal with it next year.
And we'll get to Trevor Lawrence's tweets, because I think like those are great points, but that's not all guaranteed. Like if a coach cannot, if a player asks a coach right now, if I opt out, is my eligibility retained? The coach doesn't have that answer. Nobody has that answer yet. The waiver,
the presidents have to meet with and come out and say, look, we're going to cancel the season, but instead we're going to guarantee your scholarship if you choose not to play, or you can sign a waiver and we can roll. And we're going to still help and give you the safety precautions necessary, but we have to protect ourselves from, Johnny Lawyer coming to you in the situation that you just outlaid. You see what I'm saying?
I agree.
This is the president. I don't doubt that the players ask the coaches and the coaches say, I don't know. But the issue is that the presidents that are meeting right now, they need to start working on solutions instead of running away because the MAC did.
Right. And the MAC is a different situation, right? The MAC also said
They
that
don't have the money.
Yeah, this is a financial decision that we have to make too, which I get it. The MAC is different, and the MAC lost all of their money by having all Power 5 conferences just say we're playing conference only, and the MAC got screwed out of that. And remember, Brent says players aren't going to want to sign a waiver, and Trillville on Periscope says the NCAA banned liability waivers for COVID. And I'm reading this from August 6th, which I believe was Friday. NCAA revokes COVID-19 liability waivers for college athletes in response to a demand from a legislation. So, and that there's something there. I remember we talked about the Pac-12 player demands a week ago, and they said no waivers, right? So the easy answer of, well, sign a waiver, make it a waiver. The players aren't going to want to do that because as we're about to get to Trevor Lawrence's opinion here, the players want more. We talked about this last Monday. The players have leverage right now. And Pete Thamel's column from this morning is great about how players deserve more. And right now, presidents are the problem with this. Is university presidents have not been doing anything, and this is above athletic directors. And right now, that's why the Big Ten is threatening to cancel the season because of those two lawsuit options I just mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and they're trying to get – and I agree with you. The players probably have more power today than they ever have because of this situation. But at the end of the day, I think these conferences are swinging their big stick and saying, well, if you want to bitch and moan about you being a student athlete, not getting everything that you deserve, we'll just cancel the season and take everything away from you. We're going to take your ball because we own the ball, and we're going to take the nets down, and you can't play, right? That's the one thing that they can swing around. And what happened when that started to be kind of rumored, swirling yesterday and the day before, then you got players saying, no, wait, that's our recess. You can't do that. We want that. And so there is a power struggle. I don't deny that. But ultimately, the conferences, as we had a show on this last week, they have more power than any player has in their little pinky finger.
All right,
they do.
A to Z Sports, I've got something that just came in via Brett McMurphy about the Big Ten voting. So I want to get to that here in a second. Then we'll ask you a question on will the Big Ten cancel the season this week or not. So we'll do that here in a second. But first, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse. RentersWarehouse.com. They're the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. There are so many different ways that Renters Warehouse can help you out during this pandemic, whether it saves some income or create some extra cash flows for you and your family. Head to RentersWarehouse.com.
A lot to talk about. The Preds possibly at 5 o'clock could get the number one overall pick. They got 12.5% chance to steal that number one overall pick. I don't know if that's going to happen. And also some very good news, a good announcement coming at the end of this show that will probably change the rest of August, maybe even in the future. Who knows?
Right. So here's the question I want to get to, and I'm going to read Brett McMurphy's latest report. The question we want to ask you guys is, do you think the Big Ten will cancel its football season this week? Do you think the Big Ten will cancel its football season this week? So we'll get to your comments. Here's what Brett McMurphy tweeted out 4 minutes ago. Dan Patrick reports the Big Ten had internal vote. By 12-2 margin, league members opted on not having fall football. Nebraska and Iowa were the only schools that voted to play this fall, Dan Patrick said. He also said the Big Ten and Pac-12 could cancel fall seasons on Tuesday. How about that?
Well, so that answers our question. Our question's obsolete now.
I mean, that's some pretty heavy stuff coming in to start off your Monday.
So I mean, don't even answer the question then. Like our question's dead. That bit of information just killed it.
Crazy. So how do you react to that, Zach?
I'm devastatedly upset. I think that it's I have so many different opinions that I want to say that I probably shouldn't. But it's sad that we run away instead of finding a solution. And these presidents, smart in their own right. Now, do they make mistakes? Yeah. There's a lot of chancellor turnover in universities, but they have a ton of money, and they're just going to call this a loss. And I think that it's sad. I don't think that should happen. And you know what, Austin, you gave a good scenario about a player getting sick, coming back, not finishing the season he would have, losing money, all that stuff. What about all the players that lose this year, that something they go do something else, maybe they get sick, they lost a year. They're 1 year old. There's an argument there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
On every side there is another.
Well, and Pete Thamel, I referenced his column from this morning. There are several questions that players could ask their coaches that coaches can't answer. For example, coach, are we playing in the spring? What happens to seniors who miss their final season? Will all players get an extra year? Are we practicing? Are we working out? Do we go home? Do we stay in class? Like all these things that we don't know. And I want to read this from Pete Thamel's article too, because it's strong and I think it's pretty spot on. This is from a high-ranking official at a Power 5 school. Quote, college athletics is the only multi-billion-dollar business in the world with no leadership structure or decision-making apparatus, and it's been catastrophically exposed. I'm embarrassed to have been a part of this exercise in failed leadership.
And that goes to something we've known for a long time. They have no face. Nobody represents them. They make bad decisions. They take advantage of college students and justify them as student athletes instead of athletic students. You know, like they've always done this. And then and as we all know in life, when you get into a bind, when pressure is applied, the true character of companies and people come out. And unfortunately, the true character of these conferences, they come out because they're not well run, and they want to run away from everything, and they want to please everybody. And if you want to please everybody, the easy thing to do is to quit, right? But if you want to do the right thing, you buckle down and you find a solution. And that's the disconnect that I see between these presidents and the American public. And I hate that. I truly do. And I think Trevor Lawrence it's sad, and we're going to read all the things that he put out there, whether they're now for naught or whatever, is you had to have, and Trevor Lawrence is what, 18, 20, 21?
He's going into his third season, so he's of that age.
He's 21 years old, 22 years old. You're going to have and make a 21 or 22-year-old carry the torch for the entire college football? Like, college football is a multi-billion-dollar business, and the only guy that is standing up and gives a damn, and he does because he's actually put in the time and effort to find some solutions, he's just shut up immediately. They just say, hey, Trevor, you're the face of our brand, but go shut up.
Yeah. Tress comments just had a gut punch. Only Nebraska and Iowa voted to play football this fall in the Big Ten. So, Zach, I've got this from Dan Patrick, the video of Dan Patrick talking about the Big Ten's vote. Going to play this now.
Here's the information I got almost an hour ago. The Big Ten and Pac-12 will cancel their football seasons tomorrow. The ACC and the Big 12 are on the fence. The SEC is trying to get a delay to have teams join them. The SEC is looking at exclusive TV contracts. So once again, then I followed up with my source and I said, so the Big Ten and Pac-12 canceled tomorrow. That's what I'm told this morning. 3 Big Ten teams that I've spoken with said it's done. And I followed up by saying, so the SEC might go alone and bring in other schools. That's the latest. They're trying to buy time, according to my source, to see if the ACC or Big 12 will go along with them.
I mean, that's that's pretty damn huge. So the Big Ten, Pac-12 to recap might cancel their season. Well, probably, according to Dan Patrick, cancel their seasons tomorrow. Now the SEC was and the Big 12 really have been the slowest to make decisions the entire summer, which I think is the smart move. The Big Ten went conference only first. The Pac-12 just groupies right now, following along with what the Big Ten wants to do, which is basically how people think of the Pac-12. So, I mean, I think this is what the SEC needs to do. The SEC, where it just means more, and they want to tout that everywhere that it just means more. This is the opportunity you have to actually put that into place and show that it just means more and that you can pull off how to play college football, how to take over college football, how to make it bigger, and how to make more money and do it in a safe and a smart way for these student athletes.
And I hope to God that can happen. My concern, Austin, is at the first shot of a kid getting COVID, all the other people that wanted to quit, they're going to attack the SEC with the most pitchforks you've ever seen, because they're going to justify to say the SEC is sick to put these kids in harm's way.
But
The
Zach,
first,
they're already
with the first sign of COVID, that's exactly what's
already
going to happen.
That's already happened.
No, I know, but even more when these, and look, I'm with you, Austin. My personal opinion is I think that, and I'm going to do it, I think the SEC, big double middle fingers to the entire country and saying, you know what? And you said it. It just means more. We're going to play. We're going to find a solution. We're going to use safety precautions. We're going to protect these kids, and we're going to play football. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's not going to be that bad. It may not be perfect. It may not be 0 positive cases, but it's not going to be that bad. And I think that can happen. I do think it will be difficult because everybody else is going to be basically attack, CNN, Fox News. It's going to be blood. Shark year. That's what it's going to be.
All right, so let's ask this question because we've got new information. I'll replay the Dan Patrick video here in a second. So we'll ask this question because Dan Patrick was reporting that the Big Ten, Pac-12 are likely to cancel the fall season tomorrow. And the SEC is reaching out to its East and West, to the ACC and the Big 12 about doing this thing big together. So here's the question. What percentage chance does the SEC play if the Big Ten doesn't? So we'll just keep it simple like that because we feel like the SEC is going to try, the Big Ten's not. So
we got good news, though. Breaking good news.
Breaking good news.
We just got some breaking bad news, pun intended.
I still haven't watched that show, but go ahead.
Breaking good news. Brett McMurphy, Middle Tennessee at Army will be played September 4th or 5th. The schools have announced.
Yeah, I saw that. And that's great. Great for Middle because Middle has lost like every single non-conference game.
That's something. No, it's not the big boys, but that's something.
Right. A to Z Sports. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you guys, what percentage chance do you think the SEC plays while the Big Ten doesn't? Like if the Big Ten says no, what percentage chance you give the SEC to move forward? And before we dive into that, Zach, tell the people about Calvin and Subtle.
Yeah, Calvin and Subtle, that's where you need to get your hardwood floors. It's that simple. You can give them a call at 615-448-6414. That's 615-448-6414. You call them. They use the CDC precautions to come into your house, come into your home, stay safe, look around and say, look, this is what we need to do. We need to rip up this. This carpet needs to come out. New hardwood floors come in. Upgrade. Talk about an upgrade of a house. They've got the best quality. They truly do right here in Middle Tennessee. They order the material, come to your house. You pick out your favorite hardwood floors, 1 to 2 weeks. 1 to 2 weeks, they install. It's that simple. CalvinandSubtle.com or 615-448-6414.
All right, A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. We've had some crazy news happen live on the show when it comes to Dan Patrick's report. So the question is, what percentage chance do you think the SEC will play while the Big Ten doesn't? And I'll play you this clip from the Dan Patrick show that just happened earlier in the 8 o'clock hour.
Here's the information I got almost an hour ago. The Big Ten and Pac-12 will cancel their football seasons tomorrow. The ACC and the Big 12 are on the fence. The SEC is trying to get a delay to have teams join them. The SEC is looking at exclusive TV contracts. So once again, then I followed up with my source and I said, so the Big Ten and Pac-12 canceled tomorrow. That's what I'm told this morning. 3 Big Ten teams that I've spoken with said it's done. And I followed up by saying, so the SEC might go alone and bring in other schools. That's the latest. They're trying to buy time, according to my source, to see if the ACC or Big 12 will go along with them.
So, and the Big Ten voted 12-2 to not play in the fall. The 2 schools that voted to play, Nebraska and Iowa. And as I said earlier this morning, that, and this is the irony of what's happening with the Big Ten, is there are 2 institutions, 2 schools, 2 programs in the Big Ten who can't get their stuff straight when it comes to COVID cases and cannot get it under control. Rutgers and Northwestern. So the 2 of the worst football programs in the Big Ten could just screw everybody else up because, again, like if Rutgers
poorly run businesses make poor decisions, that affects everybody. That doesn't surprise me.
Right. So, all right, here's the question. We'll get to some of your comments. What percentage chance do you give the SEC to play if the Big Ten doesn't? So we'll read some comments here. We got some good percentages flying in. F-Word Pod says 100%, just pile right through. God bless the SEC, says Turner. Hunter says 75%. Dwayne says 100% SEC. Guy says 90%. Ronaldo says 20%. Cheyenne says 85%. David says, even if the SEC does play, there's no way there will be a college football playoff or national championship this year. Look, and I think at this point, who cares? At this point, it's all about, can you have something that resembles a college football season so you get something that resembles the TV contract that you signed years ago.
The winner of the SEC championship is the national champion.
Well, hell, and if the SEC is trying to say, hey, Nebraska, Iowa, hop aboard, and then you get the ACC.
I'd love to see Iowa, Tennessee, Iowa, Florida, Iowa, Georgia, Iowa.
We've seen Iowa, Tennessee, and Tennessee, Nebraska recently in bowl games, and you get those matchups every once in a while. But there's an opportunity for look, everybody knows 2020 has a big fat asterisk on it in every situation. And it's different, right? And I think things are going to change dramatically for college football moving forward because of this year. But I think whatever you can do to get football being played this fall and this winter, whatever it looks like, do it, right? And if the SEC can, go for it. Because there's so many people that have their livelihoods tied to college football. And that's something we really haven't talked about yet today, Zach, the players had their futures depend on it. Coaches, staffers the coaches are making millions of dollars. College football head coaches are going to be fine. But it's the staffers that are, analysts or just working in whatever area of the facility. Then it's the communities. We talk all the time about how college towns are small towns that rely on the income and their economy relies on college football fall. And if a fall does not happen, then a lot of these towns go into a deep, deep depression.
So it's kind of a side comment. It's a good one, but it's not true. So Brian Cash brings up, he goes, Rutgers and Northwestern have done more than UT has done in the last 2 decades. And so it's like, maybe he's got a point. Like, they have had better winning seasons, more 10-win seasons.
Well, you're talking about 2 schools, but
as far as bowls,
you look at Rutgers was in the Big East. That was awful,
right? And they went 11-2, but they went to the Texas Bowl,
right? Because they were in the Big East and they were Rutgers. Like that Rutgers is a awful program, and look, Tennessee has been awful too.
No, but it's a valid. I mean, it's somewhat of a valid. The only problem is the bowls is that Northwestern went 10-3 twice and went to the Gator and the Outback. So, like, no, they won one and they lost the Outback, won the Gator. But, like, so I don't know. They're pretty even. It's kind of funny. Tennessee is right there as far as in the last couple of decades winning. It's Northwestern, Rutgers.
But Northwestern's had a couple really solid seasons. I like Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's a really good coach. I think Northwestern's just a tough situation. Purple Vandy, as they call it. But and Tennessee in a year where they had, I forget which Vols team just whipped Northwestern, which Butch Jones team did. But even when Northwestern was high and Tennessee was average, Tennessee was still beating them by touchdowns.
So now that all this has come out and we just heard a lot of breaking news on the show, I think about, and I was trying to figure out why the SEC started so late. Why did they start September 26th? That didn't make any sense. But what I think I've found is that these rumblings have been happening. And so you talk about they wanted to give them more time for other conferences to possibly duck out. I think they communicate. They've got moles within the presidential circle of all these universities. I bet you that's the reason why they did it. And they said, let's give us some more time because there's other way of thinking about this virus. And obviously, it's coming out pretty early on that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are the ones that are more fearful. And we have those people that will drive in their car by themselves with a mask on. But I believe that the SEC set themselves up maybe a little bit more for success to say, all right, we'll have a couple more weeks to get everything in line because some people are going to jump ship. And we've seen that happen.
Yeah. So all right, so let's go back to, because we haven't given our percentages yet. So I think it's only fair that we do that. So we asked the question, what percentage chance do you give the SEC to play if the Big Ten doesn't? So I think there were more higher percentages than lower percentages from what I remember. I think G-Man says 25%. Jonathan Tillman's at 50%. And Matthew's saying 100% they will play just SEC. Brent says 10%. Once Big Ten cancels, Pac-12 and others will follow. And that's what Dan Patrick said, is that the Pac-12 is just riding the coattails of the Big Ten for the second time this summer. They went conference only right after the Big Ten did it, and Dan Patrick reported that the Pac-12 will follow the Big Ten and cancel their fall football season tomorrow on Tuesday. But then Dan Patrick also said that the SEC is talking to the ACC and the Big 12 about trying to do something bigger than just their conference only and make sure that they can ride this thing through, and that the ACC and the Big 12 are riding the fence right now. Can the SEC pull them off the fence, or does it even matter? I feel like the SEC, it doesn't matter. I don't think the SEC necessarily cares about, I'll rephrase that. I don't think SEC athletic directors and I don't think Greg Sankey cares about what the other Power 5 conferences do. The presidents are the bigger problem here.
Yes, I agree with that. My percentage is higher for the SEC. I think that it right now is 65% for me. I do think that there's a gap because I think that they do care what everybody else does. You cannot deny that they don't. But I think the SEC has the stance of the reason why the SEC has dominated so much in the billion-dollar industry that is college football is because they sit there and they say, we're bigger, badder than everybody else. And the SEC, let's face it, they have the most to lose if they don't play because they make the most money. So that is a huge money. As we know, money makes the world go round when it comes to business, and that's where a lot of decisions are actually decided on. I think that the 65% that gives me some hope is the money of it. The other percentages, the 35%, is all of the other pitchfork-fearing people around the United States that will criticize on their faceless Twitter feed and yell at the SEC saying that they don't care about people's lives. I can't stand those people, but that's what I think the 35%, the news outlets of the world, the liberal media, and I'm going to say it because that's what it is. They want to protect lives. I respect that. But they also have to understand there are different facets of all of these things. The SEC wants to play because they actually want to find a solution. They're going to make some mistakes along the way. That's just how things work. But they're willing to actually try. And I have more respect for people that try than the ones that sit on the sideline and just yell at all of the people playing.
All right, A to Z Sports. Kevin says, don't be so dramatic, man. So you give 65% chance that the SEC will play if the Big Ten doesn't. So G-Man, I'll give my percentage in a second. But G-Man says, what has been the major point to shift to cancel the season now? Like what happened in the last 10 days? And that's a perfect question because I found myself asking the same thing over the weekend of what the hell happened, because last week the Big Ten announced their schedule and the SEC announced their bonus cross-conference opponents, right? And everything felt like they were just moving forward, and they like the SEC, and they announced, okay, here's how we're going to open fall camp, and here's the rules for fall camp and all that. Now the Big Ten's like, screw it. Well, what happened is somebody did it first, because nobody really wants to be first when something negative happens, right? It's easier to follow along when somebody else steps out there and puts their neck out there and is first. And I know it's the MAC, but the MAC was first. The MAC was the first football bowl subdivision conference to say, we don't think it's right financially and medically.
That's like the little stepbrother that doesn't talk.
Zach, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just trying to answer. I'm answering the question of what happened. The MAC said we're not playing football, and so this is all about university presidents. This is not about sports people. It's not about sports people. Sports people like me, you, and everybody watching our show right now, we're sports people. College football coaches, the players, writers, ADs, are sports people. Presidents are not sports people. And so presidents and chancellors will say, I kind of agree with the MAC that liability doesn't make sense. And so that's where the non-sports people, the MAC, decides to say, we don't think it's right, so we're going to be the first domino. And the Big Ten says, that shares the same geographic region, the Big Ten says, you know what? Kind of agree. The presidents of the Big Ten.
Yeah, and this to that point, Austin, this is my pure, honest opinion. 2020 has been the hardest year for a lot of people, right? And it's been the hardest year, I would say, for A to Z Sports, because we have been forced to form opinions on something that have nothing to do with sports, right? It's now about the virus. I think a certain way. Other people think a certain way. It's different when you're talking about sports, right? It's that player's good, that player's not as good. This is how the coach should have handled this situation. These fans are this way. But now we've gotten into this Republican Democratic just debate because of all the election year has hurt it. It's the overseas of where it started in China. So you talk about the world problems, and we've had to talk about a lot of stuff that I particularly would never want to talk about in front of a lot of people. Now, I will and I do, because we have to discuss them, because now it's just like a virus. It's starting to spread and infiltrate all the nooks and crannies of our American lives. And that has been the hardest thing personally for me, is having to share probably opinions that I would rather not, but I'm forced to.
So a couple things I want to get to here in comments. Jacob says the presidents are more likely to listen to the med school. Yeah, where the football program is what built the parking structure that gets you inside the med school.
Universities first.
Yes, exactly. Sean says, can a team in a conference play elsewhere if their conference has no football? And that's kind of what the next step is, because Dan Patrick has said the Big Ten voted 12-2 to not play in the fall. The other two are Nebraska and Iowa, who voted to play in the fall. So now the SEC is going to wait to try to delay to see if those schools, and maybe schools who want to play in the fall in other conferences like the ACC, the Big 12, like what if the Big 12, Zach, votes to not play football, but Texas is like, no, we're playing football. And now you got Nebraska, Iowa, Texas, and maybe like a random ACC school like North Carolina that want to play football. Now you add those 4 teams into the SEC, and you've got 18 schools playing one big, huge college football season.
And what shakeup could that have in the future of what college football looks like?
G-Man on base says Notre Dame comes to the SEC for the season. Like what? I mean, these are realistic things that can happen. Dan Patrick's saying the SEC is trying to wait and delay and reach out feelers to see how other institutions feel about it if their conference closes things down.
I would be – all I want is the SEC to play football.
Yeah.
Number one, I want the NFL to play football. But number two, very close second, is I want the SEC to play football. I want to see LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I want to see that. I could give a rip if they don't have to play the cross-conference games. And I don't care if the Big Ten plays. I'll be honest. I don't care about Ohio State or Michigan or any of those. I don't care about the Pac-12. This is a very different year. If I could have one thing, it would be the NFL. If I could have two things, it would be the SEC.
I have an idea. This is just literally off the top of the dome. This is like, I came up with this. Right now it's 9:18. I came up with this 1 minute ago. Okay. So how about this? Currently there are 14 SEC schools. What if the SEC, because the Big Ten, Pac-12, they're going to say bye-bye. Here's what happens. The SEC needs to recruit 8 other schools because I doubt, like Wake Forest, like Dave Clawson at Wake Forest is already talking about how he has prepared a plan for the ACC to have in the spring season. What if the SEC gets 8 more universities to join them? So you have 22 teams in a major like Super League, and you split that Super League into East and West geographically, and you have 11 teams in each division, and you play everybody in that division, which would be 10 games, and then the winner of those 2 divisions play each other for the Super League title. It's a random ass situation, but I think that's something that we could be heading towards if the ACC, the Big 12 as a whole don't want to play. But if you get Nebraska and Iowa, you've got 2. I think Clemson wants to play football this year. There's 3. You need 5 others. I think Texas and Oklahoma probably want to play football this year. Notre Dame wants to have that money, that TV money. There are 2 more. 22 Super League teams. And I think this could be really fun. And it's a 1 year.
That's a theory. It's a suggestion.
I came up with this 3 minutes ago.
I would love it. I think there would be a lot of moving pieces. And I think
course.
the SEC first and foremost has to think about themselves. But if they are comfortable enough with themselves, then that's a very unique idea. Super League could shake up the world. And I think people would say, look, if we play in the fall, we don't play in the spring. What is the repercussions of teams playing in the spring? Are they going to force them to play again in the fall?
Yeah, it's a weird thing because I've heard coaches say that they don't want to play in the spring because if a guy tears an ACL, which is going to happen, he's out for 2 seasons automatically. Or if an Achilles pops, and that happens all the time. And so that's a really tough situation. Tress says it's the WrestleMania of college football. Just have college football WrestleMania Super League. Walter, yes, Vandy can stay because they're in the SEC. But, I mean, I think this is something where – and this would change college football forever. And I think college football is going to change forever because of what 2020 has been and what 2020 is going to be.
Well, hopefully they get better management up top. And that's how.
Well, and this is where I want to go next because honestly, I truly believe that part of this, and this has changed as the Big Ten news and report from Dan Patrick has come out during our show. But I truly believe, and we're going to get to this, and this includes Trevor Lawrence a little more, that this has become more than the coronavirus. It's not really about the coronavirus anymore. There's extra layers that are bigger than just one season that I want to get to. Before I dive into that, I will tell you guys about the bone and joint. Like I just talked about an ACL tear, an Achilles popping. Injuries happen to everybody. They happen to me. They happen to Zach. They happen to you guys in whatever walk of life you're doing. So when you do get hurt, or if your spouse gets hurt, or your son or daughter gets hurt doing something that kids do, go to the Bone and Joint Institute right there in Franklin, a beautiful building. They have everything, every step of the process of healing from an injury happens in one building, not like in 5 different places. Don't fumble on your recovery. Head to the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org. They're the region's destination for comprehensive and orthopedic care, boneandjointtn.org.
I've got some really big news coming up at the end of the show that everybody, I think, is going to love. You talk about changing college football forever. I could change the month of August forever. It could happen. So stay tuned. I've got
the
some
month
good
of
news
August. You can change the month of August for August, right?
And ever. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
All right, Zach. So I think with what's happening in college football, I saw this tweet from Matt Hayes, who is a national college football reporter. He tweeted this out Saturday. And I truly think this is more than just the coronavirus. It's about what Trevor Lawrence and what other big name players are doing and saying on social media that has gotten universities worried about players getting together. So Matt Hayes tweeted this on Saturday. Power 5 AD just texted me. You and your colleagues, the national media, are chasing the wrong story. The virus alone is enough to stop the season, but presidents are terrified of players organizing. It's the paradigm shift to change amateur sports. He continues, you potentially lose one season with the virus. You lose the entire framework of your mission statement with players organizing. They need time to figure out how to attack. I saw that tweet.
But canceling a season, doesn't that just help them?
I agree. I agree.
That doesn't make you.
I agree that what's happened already this summer has given players more reason to think about, hey, we need to group together because right now we're not. And so I think they've kind of screwed themselves. and I heard Charlie Burris talk about this on our Big Orange podcast. New episode came out this morning. It's the Barbara Streisand effect, where she years ago told people that she didn't want them taking pictures of her house, which just made more people want to go take pictures of her house. So now presidents are worried about players unionizing, which is just going to make them want to do that more. Like if you have a big red button and it says do not push, I'm going to want to try to push that for whatever reason.
It's high school nicknames. That's how you hate it. You got it. I mean, that's how it works.
But I think he's not wrong. I think what Matt Hayes tweeted out Saturday from a Power 5 AD, I think that's right. I think that's correct. Because
so here's my issue with it, okay? Is the one catalyst is football, though. All the other surrounding pieces, I think we all agree that there is a lot of noise on the outside. But at the end of the day, and this goes to what Trevor Lawrence tweeted out, that's the hashtag. That's the movement. The movement, and there's been a lot of movements here recently. This movement is we want to play. So who holds the keys? I believe the players do not hold the keys to that.
Okay.
The conferences and the organizing of it, as
the presidents do.
They hold the key to that. So they can hold that over their heads for however long because that's the outlet for them to make millions of dollars in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, and you could go ahead and read all 3 of his tweets, but I love how he actually stood up and had a voice saying people are just as much, if not more, at risk if we don't play. Now,
yes,
he starts that his movement with that. I want to stop here for a second, Austin.
Okay.
What is your opinion, and this goes to the virus, of players going to campus and not staying home and the safetiness of that? Do you think players are more safe or less safe going to college?
I agree with Trevor Lawrence and his other colleagues of college football players that the best care that the majority, because every situation in college football is different. Like HBO Real Sports had a story a few weeks ago, and they were talking. They interviewed the parents of a Stanford football player, where the father was like a lawyer and was a like 8-year NFL vet, right? And those parents were saying, we want our kid in our house to make sure we can protect him. Well, that is a unique, that's the outlier in college football, is that player situation with his parents and the privileges that his family have to be able to take care and protect him. Where I think the majority of college football players are safer when they are on campus, when they are going to a facility, when they are working towards something. How many times in movies, in life, do you hear about a athlete saying, man, if I didn't have sports, I would have been on the streets?
Or dead.
Yes, and sports is what motivated me. Like in high school, I didn't care about school. I didn't care about grades, but I had to go to school and go to class so I could play football in high school, so I could go to play football in college, so I could go to the NFL and make something of myself. So I think I agree with Trevor Lawrence and other college football players. They are safer and get better care at school, in these universities, because they actually have trainers, they have doctors, they have nutritionists, they have testing. How many times have you been tested for the coronavirus, Zach?
0.
Me too. 0, none, nothing. Like I get my temperature checked.
Have I had it? I think so. I don't know though.
But we don't know. But if in every college football player would be the same way. If they just didn't have any symptoms, they wouldn't get tested. But now they're getting tested. They're going through protocols to keep them safe. I believe they are safer on campus.
And so this is what I love about Trevor Lawrence. And he's very intelligent. 21, 20. I got to check to see how old this kid actually is, because he is wise beyond his years. And I love how he is the torch carrier of college football. I don't think that he should have to be, but he is, right? And he comes out and he says just what you just talked about. They're at just as much risk, if not more, if they don't play. They'll be sent home to their own communities where social distancing is highly unlikely, medical care, expenses. So I think Trevor Lawrence, and this is what people are not talking about, is the safety of the university. Instead, they are talking about the fear, right? Glass half full, glass half empty. They're saying, well, these kids are going to spread the virus. Well, what the hell do you think they're doing at home, drinking with their old crony buddies that as you said, a lot of situations, you go back to your hometown, and that's where things like Kenny Britt driving around in New Jersey happen. That's when trouble starts to stir, not only in the streets, but also now with the virus of spreading them, because you're more likely to be around older individuals, which the virus has said they prey on at times.
Well, and so OG has a couple comments I want to get to. He says, have you all spent time in a tightly packed and closed space with over 100 people in the room? He says, like a locker room, they would be doing that multiple times a day. OG, like I don't think you're like following along with what colleges are doing, and really what high schools are already doing right now. I heard Ingle Martin on local radio with 3HL a couple weeks ago saying how the locker room is no longer what the locker room that OG is talking about. The locker room is a place to change clothes. And right now, during this fall, during this football season, during practice, you change clothes in the locker room and then you leave. You're not hanging out in the locker room anymore. You're going in, you're changing, you're getting out. And that is what they're not just acting like it's normal and nothing's happening. Like they're taking precautions to make sure that they minimize those situations. The Titans are doing their team meetings in the bubble, not in actual meeting rooms where Mike Vrabel has to use a microphone so everybody can hear him. Like it's not like they're able to adapt. And these Power 5 colleges have some ability to help that out. Everybody's got Zoom. Everybody knows how to use Zoom, and everybody's got one of these. You can have meetings elsewhere.
I and this is the show. We do not sit here and only read comments that we agree with. That's not how it works. I love to hear other people's way. And look, OG, he said one kid gets in the locker room and it would spread like wildfire. It's not a political thing. And then Chief Franco says, is the university of safer? Have you seen what happens on college campuses? Well, I would respond to that is, how often are you around younger people in college compared to older people? How often at home are you around older folks compared to younger folks? I think you're more likely around older people, which this virus affects. And the virus is not leaving, guys. It's not going anywhere. It will continue to spread from here over the next 5 to 10 to 15, probably over our lifetime. It's not stopping. A vaccine is not going to kill it dead on the spot. So the protection, and this is sadistic and terrible, but the likeliness of college kids killing their parents at home is higher than them being away from their parents in college. Straight facts, homie. And so do you want to protect your players? Do you want to protect your family? That's the justification that every person that is so deathly afraid of the virus is about. It's not leaving, guys. It's not. The vaccine is not a magic elixir. It's not one of those things that just makes the virus go into the hemisphere. It doesn't happen. It's a virus like the flu, not just like the flu, but the flu is still here when it infiltrated our world in 1918, okay? It happens. So adapt or die. And you can die in a couple different ways. You can die by killing your parents or your grandparents at home because you're staying around and you're still interacting with people, going to the grocery store, doing your everyday work. Or you can go to a university that affords you a lot more money because they have it to provide safer environments. Not the safest, right? You're not going to live in a bubble like the NBA, but safer environments. That's, I believe, that they should start working on the safety protocols now instead of a couple of months from now or 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now.
And unfortunately, like you brought up the NBA and the bubble, that's why I think this is bigger is these college athletes, whether you believe it or agree with it or not, they are still student athletes. They're not employees, even though I think they are treated like employees. And that's a whole bigger conversation. But I think the coronavirus will speed up the conversations about what student athletes actually are moving forward. And there will be more conversations about how to address that and how things are going to change for the foreseeable future.
And my fear is that, like, Trevor Lawrence is a grown-ass man. He's 21, but he's a grown-ass man.
He's 20. He turns 21 in October.
But he's seen a lot of stuff and done a lot of things. And my fear is the presidents or the principal teachers are going to say, no, you're not going outside today because I said so.
Here's the best thing about what Trevor Lawrence is doing. Trevor Lawrence knows that this isn't about him. Trevor Lawrence really doesn't have to play football this year. He'll be the number 1 pick next April in the 2021 NFL draft if he does not play any football this fall. And I think he knows that, but leaders know that it's not just about them. It's about the people who are following them. And Trevor Lawrence knows that, and that's why I think Trevor Lawrence is a phenomenal leader and somebody who we're looking at this guy when he's not even 21 years old. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be around our sports lives for the next 2 decades plus because of the player that he is and because of the leader that he's showing that he can be. And the future for him is insanely bright for whatever NFL team tanks for him.
Yeah, and I want to bring up, and this is getting it, Glenn Sharp, who's been commenting. Look, I respect everybody's opinion. It says no more polio. You know how many years it took to get the polio vaccine? It just hit in 2019. It's only been 8 months. It's not like this vaccine is just going to cure everybody. Boom, boom, boom. It took years for the polio vaccine to have the effects that it actually does. It was actually changed in 2000 if you actually want to do the research on it. So this is going to take time, okay? And people are going to be susceptible to this virus. Every time you walk into a grocery store, you are susceptible. I do think, and this is one thing, more people wear masks today in America than they did 4 months ago. That's a positive, right? If you really want to control it to some degree. How are we going? And protocols have been changed. We've been flipped upside down. If you had a time travel machine and plucked some guy from 1982, put him in 2020, they'd be like, what the hell is this first? What do you have in your hand? And the second question I bet would be, why the hell is everybody wearing masks?
Yeah.
So you cannot just quit life. And I think that America is built on taking risks and actually trying to find solutions instead of worrying all about the problems. And we need to get back to that. I don't know what the election, the effect of that's going to be, but I like that the SEC, and we've learned a lot in this show, Austin. It tells me, you told me earlier in the show, based on what Dan Patrick's information was, the SEC is at least trying.
Let's play the Dan Patrick video one more time, because that's what happened during our show that has really changed the course of what our show has been.
Here's the information I got almost an hour ago. The Big Ten and Pac-12 will cancel their football seasons tomorrow. The ACC and the Big 12 are on the fence. The SEC is trying to get a delay to have teams join them. The SEC is looking at exclusive TV contracts. So once again, then I followed up with my source and I said, so the Big Ten and Pac-12 canceled tomorrow. That's what I'm told this morning. 3 Big Ten teams that I've spoken with said it's done. And I followed up by saying, so the SEC might go alone and bring in other schools. That's the latest. They're trying to buy time, according to my source, to see if the ACC or Big 12 will go along with them.
So, and I brought up my college football super league, as Tress called WrestleMania college football, where I think something that could happen is you get 22 teams, the SEC plus 8, and go East-West division. You play 10 games, you play everybody, and then you have the winner of the West, the winner of the East play in Atlanta or something, and just say, here's the Super League champ. And maybe the SEC could pull something off like that. As Tress says, inject it into his veins. That's kind of like I think that's the best case scenario as we sit right now on August 10th, where the NFL is kicking off 1 month from today, by the way. I think that's the best case scenario for college football.
Yeah, I love that idea. Super League. I loved the ACC SEC challenge.
I'll write another damn article, my college football SEC Super League.
At least you're trying, Austin. I respect you.
I know, and
you're trying.
The Big Ten, meanwhile, in the Legion of Doom, it's ridiculous the Big Ten's doing this.
David also brings up another point. If you pluck some guy from 1982 and put him in 2020, they'd also be stunned how many people don't smoke cigarettes, because I feel like everybody was ripping heaters back in 1982 because
vaping. What the hell's vaping?
yeah, really.
All right, guys, let's end this Monday show with some good news. Brent says, is it time for some good news? It is. Time for good news. If I can click off of the damn comment. A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. Let's get to this good news that Zach has. And I just got a text from my grandmother that she's going to her first Mandu class this morning. How about that? Mandu, the pulse of fitness, where 1 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room. And my grandmother's doing it for the first time this morning. I did it yesterday. It's for anybody of any age or any fitness level. You can do Mandu and help make your body stronger. You're not going to skip leg day. Mandu's 15 minutes of full body electronic muscle stimulation equals 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. Your first workout is absolutely free. Mandu.com.
All right, so I do my Mandus on Tuesdays, which I love. That's hot. Tomorrow, I've already scheduled. I'm ready to rock and roll. So on Friday, Austin,
yes.
I wouldn't say attacked, but questioned my segment because I said that my good news was going to be revealed at a later date.
Yes.
You got other people come at me, say, whoa, it's not how it works. Well, patience is a virtue, and I don't have much of it, but
yeah, right.
but
you forced all of us to have it.
Right. So I have a major announcement.
Well, hold on. Let me react to that because I think we were fair in criticizing your good news because usually the good news is for that week or or something you're doing in the upcoming weekend, right?
Yeah,
And
and this was pre-planning that had to do with the upcoming weekend.
right, but you didn't tell us. You teased it.
Yeah, right until today, this morning, bright and early on Monday. We've had a lot of bad college football news. I'm trying to spread joy throughout the world. That's my passion. That is what I try to do. And this is just another example of that.
All right, so Zach, what is this good news that you have taken almost 72 hours, over 72 hours to tell us about?
Well, it's been a long road. And earlier this summer, we didn't have sports. And I did
Thanks
something.
to the Preds, we don't, and the Grizzlies, we're not going to have them any longer either.
So I did something this summer, and I won a Super Bowl title. I did. Blitz 2000. If you followed along, it was an unbelievable ride. Well, I'm coming back for more. Defending the crown. Blitz 2001. It starts tomorrow, baby. So you see that Blitz 2000 championship? Look, we're going to have a banner on the screen when I play. But I'm bringing it back for another year, week 1, and we are going to churn right along every single day until we defend the crown. Blitz 2001 is coming back. I want back-to-back Super Bowls. The first time that has happened until from the New England Patriots, 2003, 2004. This is it. So I'm happy. We had a lot. Look, the Super Bowl, Austin, I think has like 20,000 views, which is ridiculous.
Yes. It's fantastic. I think it's. David says you got to be Tampa this time. No. We cover the Tennessee Titans.
Tampa, but this is the defending the crown.
Yes,
this is a whole new season. A whole
go back to back. Run it back, Joe Dan says. Run it back, baby. If Zach loses the crown, can he get tased? The tased.
I have to get tased anyway. The hard part is, and I've thought about this. Like, I'm going to get tased. I'm not fearful. I'm not scared on that. Do I want to do it? No. Will I do it? Yes. But if something, God forbid, happens and then I got to go to the hospital, then I get COVID, then I die, you talk about liability, bro.
Yeah,
I'm suing the company for everything it's worth.
The one word that's holding back college football is the same word that's holding back Zach from getting tased. It's the liability. But Zach, just sign a waiver, bro. Sign a waiver, get tased.
This would crumble. This company would crumble, though.
You would crumble your own company because you got tased because you lost the bet off of.
If I'm dead, hell yes. You
can't do anything about it if you're dead. I'm sorry.
But the support of the family members that I have.
Kelkins.
We need a above ground pool at the ranch.
Kelkins says, "I'll draft the waiver." So thank you, Kelkins. Go for it. I mean, this will start the tasing process, and if Kelkins, if you want to draft that. You know how to contact me. We'll do it.
Yeah. So, but if we do not have seasons, one season we will have, and that starts tomorrow, is Blitz 2001. Brand new N64 game. You're going to rock. We had a lot of people jump on board the bandwagon of that Blitz season.
David Haynes just says, Zach, do not clench your teeth when getting tased. Trust me.
That's where you wear like a mouth guard. Like I some safety precautions.
I know from experience, dude. That's one of those things. All right, guys. Well, Zach, your Blitz season starts tomorrow. Louis asked what time on Tuesday?
Stay tuned tomorrow. We will unveil the time that we play.
Yeah, I'm with Ronald. The tase, the rap. Zach is losing street cred. Man.
Well, look, until we figure out some technology, IT guy over there, Austin, if you want to figure out some technology to help the other thing happen, I'm all for it.
We can make that happen if we go on site, which we are going to do several times in this month of August, is go on site and do a broadcast. But apparently your rap is not clean enough to go on site. That's what you've told us.
Who knows?
You haven't written the rap lyrics. Yet,
explicit lyrics?
No, you have not. I had explicit lyrics, but I censored myself.
You're better at censoring yourself than I am.
Better self-control. You heard it right there from Zach. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Look, long.
I'm not arguing that.
1 hour and 25 minutes today. Long show. Had some good breaking news. Thanks to Dan. Well, good is interesting word to use to describe it, but had some breaking news from Dan Patrick about what's happening. So we'll stay tuned with that. Buck Rising tonight with A to Z Sports Primetime will be a great show. He roasted the Preds last night, which I thought was a really good take and show by Buck. Also, the Big Orange podcast. If more Vols content about what we talked about today, check out the Big Orange podcast. New episode out today. We'll see you guys later on. Have a good Monday.
Adios.